Central exclusive next. Over the years, airports have traditionally been spaces where travelers simply waited for their flights. But you and I both know that that's changing rapidly. Around the world and in India too, airports are transforming into lifestyle destinations with a growing focus on experiences, entertainment and passenger comfort. And Bengaluru's Kempegowda International Airport is no different. In one of the early episodes of South Central, we took you behind the scenes on how the airport has transformed itself as one of the most aesthetic that the country has seen. Now, Kempegowda has added another feature to its aesthetic arsenal, the launch of Gate Z, a first-of-its-kind space designed specifically with Gen Z travelers in mind. We're talking chill zones, live food counters, collaborative spaces, and even an amphitheater, all aimed at making waiting time at the airport an experience instead of a drag. But is this a clever marketing idea, or does it signal a much bigger shift in how airports are being designed and monetized? As airports increasingly compete on passenger experience while also looking to boost non-aeronautical revenues, what does this feature or this lounge mean for the future of aviation infrastructure in India? Joining us now to discuss just that is George Kuruvilla, CEO of Bengaluru Airport Services Limited Division at BIAL. George, welcome to South Central. Good to have you on the show with us. You know, you heard me right there. Airports are no longer just the transit hubs that they were initially designed to be, but more of lifestyle destinations today. But I have to ask you, George, what's the business case behind investing in experience-led spaces like Gate Z? How do you measure your ROIs beyond mere passenger satisfaction?
I am speaking to you from the Gate Z Lounge. You see, it's a continuation of our effort to creating memories of a lifetime. And that must happen at an airport too. So the idea is to continue creating the experience economy. And we do know that 75% of our travelers today want to experience more than just transit from an airport. So truly, in that effort to create a sense of place and put this as an experience was truly the thought behind doing so, right? And when you talk about ROI, I think ROI is a financial outcome. And we believe that continuing with the journey that the Kempegowda International Airport creates, I think that is more important to invest in creating this experience economy by putting together this fantastic Gen Z lounge.
Now, George, you've called this a lounge inspired by the Gen Z mindset. Now, what specific consumer research per se convinced you that younger travelers want a fundamentally different airport experience, different from what's already existing at most airports around us?
If I heard you right, you're asking what were the thoughts behind specifically targeting an experience like a Gen Z? Well, I think it's a mindset. And when we try to do this, we also, like I said, we know that I think the average age that we have that fly in and out of the airport is between 28 to 35 years. Right? And that's an average, right? Now, keeping that in mind, we are already creating experiences. We do know that the food and beverage component plays a big role in that. It is about the guest traveler who wants, it is about how they want to be felt at an airport and not just, like I said, a transit point. So we know that 23% of the guests that travel out have now started using the lounge. So go back to almost a century ago. I mean, close to that, the first lounge which was built by the American Airlines was comfortable waiting rooms. So transforming that from comfortable waiting rooms to beautiful experience. We talk about fragrances, we talk about food and beverage array, we talk about creating Sunday brunches. And so that's what is the future. And that's what is the experience that we create.
Right. So, you mentioned all of it. In fact, Gate Z, like I said, has food counters, an amphitheater, AI-enabled features, and even collaborative spaces. Do you see airports around the world, around the country, increasingly competing with cafes, co-working spaces, and even entertainment venues, given the demand for these spaces?
Well, I think one has to be very mindful about how you blend this, right? I mean, here at Bengaluru, in the Kempegowda International Airport, what we create is a good mix of regional, because our local heroes, uh, we have 50-mile concept, for example, what we do at the airport lounge, where we source from the local farmers. We celebrate their dishes by mentioning, the vegetables that we source from close by that are integral part of the recipe that goes to make some of the fine dishes, right? So while we celebrate regional, I think it's important also to bring the global brand. So we actually mix that, we blend that very well when we create this experience at the lounge. Globally, while this is a trend, I think it's important to have what you call as it's not the velocity in which you do it, but there has to be depth in the experience.
And as we speak, George, the fact is that Indian airports across the country are also witnessing longer dwell times as passenger traffic grows across the board at airports in the country. Is Gate Z also a way then for BIAL to increase non-aeronautical revenue through, let's say, food, retail, or other experiences?
Absolutely. We have a beautiful cafe, which is part of the Gate Z Lounge. The cafe has the bubbles and brew. We talk about the local coffee that we have, the plantation straight that we source from food, for example. We talk about a fantastic array of spirit-forward cocktails. We talk about blending the local artisanal toys that come from Bengaluru, which are wooden, and it is colored with vegetable dyes, for example. Um, so the endeavor is definitely to mix retail, and again, when you create that depth in the experience, the outcome is, of course, the retail that happens.
Now, George, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the challenge with designing for Gen Z is simply the fact that these trends evolve rather quickly. So how do you ensure a concept like Gen Z remains relevant 5 years from now, rather than becoming a short-lived fad in a sense?
Very true. You brought about a very point. And, the modern travel is now fused with lifestyles. Passengers no longer separate airport time from how they, sort of live, work, socialize. So Gen Z is built around a mindset. It's not built around an age bracket. And we truly mean that. It reflects the values of the airport, which is championed across, a broader experience strategy. So, for example, inclusivity, flexibility, sustainability, seamless technology, all this is part of that. But is the what the guest traveler will experience is not a niche experiment. For example, we say it's a natural evolution of what we do. It's relevant to a 22-year-old founder as well as a 45-year-old frequent flyer alike. So it's really open to everybody. And like I said, you know, it today's traveler is the need of the traveler is to experience more and more, is to really feel that experience. And we believe that we must create an arrival, and every arrival is a story. That is how we live, have what we call as the feels like BLR experience.
Right, and even as we speak, the fact is that the Bengaluru airport has consistently positioned itself as an innovation leader of sorts. The recent Tito terminal, of course, an example of that. Should passengers expect more such themed or demographic-specific spaces, whether for families, business travelers, or wellness, perhaps, in the future? What's on the anvil?
It's a continuous journey, and the innovation at the airport, it's not actually trend chasing. It's an important metric for us for sure. But continue. I think it is more important to see how you continuously respond to the passenger needs. And the city itself is evolving in many ways. Passengers, therefore, today have that expectation from the airport, and while staying firmly rooted, through the culture, identity, and spirit of innovation, I think our focus remains constant to build thoughtful spaces, thoughtful experiences, brands. A good blend is more important than just positioning a trend, I believe. And Gatesy is one chapter in that ongoing story, actually. So there's a lot more that keeps coming in the food and beverage and the hospitality space.
And with the Indian passenger traffic in the fast lane to growth, the fact is many airports in the country are focused on expanding capacities. What you at BIAL are choosing to do now is focus on passenger experience alongside expansion in terms of numbers. So do you believe the next big differentiator or a competitive battleground for these airports, including yours, will be experience rather than infrastructure alone?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think it's very important to build the right infrastructure, but there should be more focus on listening to creating those experience platforms. The intersection shows up in material choices as much as the numbers. You look at our bamboo ceilings, about close to 4,000 plant species, lagoons. There's so much work that goes behind creating this kind of an experience, right? And if you look at airports across, I think it's about how we embrace each other's best practices and learn. But we really like to extend that same philosophy into a new context. So as airports across the country close this infrastructure gap, we truly believe that experience will increasingly define how travelers choose, remember, and advocate for an airport. Consistently, we've seen dwell time, which is the amount of time people spend at the airport, has gone up, particularly from a Bengaluru context, because, and it's not just, navigating through the traffic, but it is looking forward to the time being spent at the airport. And we've only seen dwell time consistently go up and up, just because of the experience which is rendered out.
George Kuruvilla, I may not be Gen Z, but I look forward to chilling at that Gatesy lounge the next time I'm flying out of Bengaluru airport. On that note, thank you so much for joining us on South Central and bringing us up to speed with those insights. Great having you with us on the show. And staying with Bengaluru itself, the Enforcement Directorate has carried out searches at 8 locations in the city in connection to a money laundering probe linked to an alleged ISIS recruitment and terror funding network. Times Now's Akshara is tracking the story and joins us with the latest details. Akshara, what are you picking up at this time?
The Enforcement Directorate carried out raids at around 8 places in and around Bengaluru in a case linked to the money laundering, which is in turn linked to the recruitment of individuals for the banned ISIS terrorist organization. Now the ED conducted raids at around 8 locations, which is based on the action that has been taken as per the Money Laundering Act, the Prevention of the Money Laundering Act, the PMLA. And under these provisions, the raids were conducted here in Bengaluru. And the police officials, the NIA, had charge treated 5 5 individuals in this particular case, where there was a study circle called as the ICRA circle that was being carried out, and funds were also channeled into this particular study circle, and individuals who were recruited here were also illegally sent to Syria in order to support the banned terrorist organization ISIS. Now, particularly in this case, in which 5 individuals have been charge treated by the NIA, the raids were conducted at 8 locations in and around Bengaluru, and also in the individuals who were under the radar of the ED in this particular case. Now, the allegations come in as states that this ICRA circles also channeled funds through this, and also recruited individuals from Bengaluru in order to send them to Turkey illegally. Now, based on these allegations and also the NIA charge sheet, the locations pertaining to these individuals were raided by the ED officials here in Bengaluru today.
Well, the ED cracking down then on that alleged ISIS network. Meanwhile, the DK Shiv Kumar-led Karnataka government has constituted an SIT to investigate allegations of encroachment of government land by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's The Art of Living and its affiliated organizations in and around the Kagalipura village in Bengaluru's South Taluk. The state government has directed the panel to submit its report within 3 months. The government said a survey report indicated that The Art of Living had encroached 291 acres and 38 guntas, including 60 acres leased by the government, and that repeated violations of laws and leasing conditions had in fact been noticed. And with that, it's a wrap on the show today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow with more news and updates from South India. But for the moment, it's goodbye from us.